In today's tale, we'll be looking into the mysterious case of the Uniondale Ghost of South Africa, who is said to have spooked more than a few motorists on the highway between the towns of Willowmore and Uniondale. First, I'd like to credit the blog Dane's Discoveries for the article on the spectre, which provided me with much of the information in this video. I've included a link to the original article in the description below if you'd like to take a deeper dive into this mystery. On Good Friday of April 12, 1968, at around 8 p.m, a recently engaged couple by the names of Michael and Maria were driving to Riversdale from Pretoria to visit Maria's parents. Michael drove the Volkswagen Beetle down the stretch of road while Maria had fallen asleep, when suddenly a gust of wind caused Michael to swerve and tragically overturn his vehicle approximately 20 kilometers from the town of Uniondale. Michael survived, but Maria was killed instantly. In the years that followed, Michael picked up the shattered pieces of his life, married another woman, and moved on. The story seemed to end there, it is, until late one night in 1973, when a man by the name of Leonard Fraser and his wife were making their way down that same stretch of road only to spot a girl who wore a long white gown. According to Leonard's wife, the apparition didn't look human and had a transparent quality. The couple stopped their vehicle to see if the girl needed help, only to watch her disappear into nothing. This would not be the last time travelers encountered her. In 1976, she was seen again when one Anton Lagrange was driving on the Uniondale Willowmore Road. In his own words, "I saw a girl standing at the side of the road. I stopped. She opened the door and got in. I asked where she wanted to go. The solitary girl gave him an address. He described her as having dark hair and a pale face, dressed in a dark coat and slacks. After driving for a few miles, according to Lagrange, he turned his head only to discover that she was gone. He was apparently completely alone in his car." What gives the story its authenticity is that Lagrange then drove to Uniondale and reported the incident to the police before resuming his journey. But as he left Uniondale, he heard what he described to be the most chilling sound he had ever heard. It was either a laugh or a scream, very loud from inside his car, despite his being alone. So he turned around and went right on back to the police, who then searched his vehicle, finding no trace of the girl. Lagrange again set off, but this time Sergeant Potgieter, who had received his report, followed him. Later, Lagrange recalled, "Just outside Uniondale, while I was driving at a steady 70 kilometers an hour, the right rear door of my car slowly opened and closed. It was a controlled, gentle opening and closing, exactly as if someone got out and then shut the door behind them." This indeed would sound unbelievable were it not for the sergeant's side of the story, who said, "Lagrange drove through a patch of mist, and about 200 yards beyond the mist, I saw the right rear door slowly open and close, as if somebody got out." The next day, Sergeant Potgieter met with Sergeant Pat MacDonald, the first officer to arrive on the scene the fateful night of Maria's death back in 1968. Upon sharing the description of the girl that Lagrange had given the previous evening, Sergeant MacDonald confirmed that the details matched that of Maria exactly. The story quickly hit the newspapers, along with an image of the late Maria. When Lagrange saw her photo in print for the first time, he declared her to be the same girl that he had picked up. In Easter of 1978, Army Corporal Dory van Jaarsveld was riding his motorcycle to Uniondale to visit his girlfriend for the holidays. In his own words, "When I reached the intersection, I saw somebody standing on the side of the road. Just as I turned to the right, she kind of lifted her arms up like, 'Oh no, aren't you going to stop?' But Dory did stop and offered the young woman a lift, which she accepted, putting on the spare motorcycle helmet as Dory instructed her to hold on tight around his waist so that he could feel if something went wrong. And indeed, something did go wrong. After riding for a few kilometers, the bike sort of twitched, and Dory thought the girl had fallen off. But when he turned back, he found the road to be completely empty, and the spare helmet he had given to the young woman was back in his luggage rack. On Good Friday of 1980, another motorcyclist by the name of Andre Coetzee rode down the N9 past Uniondale when suddenly he felt hands around his waist. He recalled feeling their pressure, and looking down he even saw a pair of hands. Naturally scared of his sudden unexplainable passenger, Andre accelerated his speed, desperate to get away from this haunted stretch of road. Reaching 150 kilometers per hour, the mysterious stowaway whacked Andre on the head 3 times before suddenly disappearing. According to the story, Andre took himself to the local cafe in Uniondale, where the cafe owner, Jeanette Mayer, was met with a very shaken Andre, unable at first to find the words to describe to her what had just happened to him. So far, I've shared with you some of what seem to be the most popular stories concerning the Uniondale Ghost. Stories that have made it to the printed press or police records. But in truth, there have been many encounters along that highway, which have all contained the similar elements of car doors opening by themselves or a mysterious lonely female hitchhiker who suddenly vanishes. One commenter on social media, Danny DeCock, claimed that in 1983, while honeymooning with his wife, they stopped along the same highway to take a rest. While his wife slept in the passenger seat late on that windless night, Danny got out of their Volkswagen Beetle to relieve himself nearby. He recalled that suddenly a terrible sound of rushing wind came rolling down the road but suddenly went silent as it reached his car. Spooked by the sudden noise, Danny ran back to the driver's door, only to be met by a stranger now occupying his seat. Danny thought the person was hijacking their car, so he ran to his wife's side to rescue her. But as he woke her, the mysterious passenger just disappeared. As they drove quickly away from that daunting spot about half a kilometer down the road, they saw a woman dressed in a gown and waving at them to slow down. Danny reduced his speed, and the lady again disappeared. Since 1984, the stories of the Uniondale Ghost have been few and far between. For now, they seem to have stopped entirely. I found the case of the Uniondale Ghost particularly interesting because it corresponds quite vividly with the strange stories that surfaced after the 2011 Tohoku tsunami in Japan, where Japanese taxi drivers on multiple occasions claimed to have picked up passengers only to have them suddenly disappear. A phenomenon that was documented in the recent Netflix reboot of Unsolved Mysteries. Many believe that these passengers were the spirits of those whose lives were cut short by the terrifying wave that barraged through the region, causing insurmountable damage and heartache. But what about you? Can you relate to the tales of the Uniondale Ghost? Have you ever picked up a lonely passenger only to have them disappear? Please share your tale with me at tellyourtalehere@gmail.com so that I can tell your tale in a future video. And until next time, don't drive alone.